to this month's bake box tutorial. So our first thing to do is get our tray ready. Now I have got a Wilton's tray here, but you can use a simple baking tray as long as it's got a bit of an edge on it, so when your cake rises it's not going to go over. That's going to be perfect for our Yule log. The first thing that I'm going to do is to put a little bit of butter on the bottom of my tray. We will be using parchment paper for this bake. Normally I don't use it, but in this scenario, because we're making a Yule log, it's really important to have the parchment paper there, just because it helps with that initial roll. So once you've got your spread on that, we need to get our parchment paper, and all I'm going to do is lie it in and push it right down. Now the butter on here helps it to stick and stops it kind of popping back up, which you don't want when you've got your cake mix going in. So I'm just going to smooth it down. It doesn't have to be pretty or neat, you just need it to be in there. This is ready now, so I'm going to pop this to the side and then we can get started on our cake. Okay, so first things first, you're going to need 2 bowls. I have a glass one and a plastic one here. It doesn't matter which type you use, but you need 2 that are going to be able to hold quite a good volume. And the first thing we're going to be doing is splitting our eggs. So I've got a pack of 6 eggs. Here we are, and all I'm going to be doing is splitting them between my 2 bowls, because this cake has no flour or raising agents in it, so we're going to be whisking our egg whites to give us that little bit of air. So I'm going to put my egg whites into this bowl first, so I'm just going to crack them in, catching that yolk in the shell, and then just passing it between the 2 to make sure all the white's off of that. Then all I'm going to do is plonk that little yolk in there. Now because I'm using all 6 eggs, I'm just going to pop them back in this container. So we'll just continue cracking these. If you have, you know, one of those little cups that separate eggs, obviously you use that. If not, this is quite a good technique. You just got to go nice and steady. But all you do is slowly pass the yolk across both of the shells, and it slowly separates it from the egg white. So we'll just do that for all of our eggs now. So we've separated our eggs, we've got our egg whites in here, and we've got our egg yolks in this bowl. I'm just going to pop this to the side now, we don't need it just yet. And the first thing we're going to be doing is whisking up our egg whites. So I've got a mixer here, you might have a standing mixer. I would not recommend doing this by hand, you will be here all day. But we're just going to whisk these until they're light and fluffy, starting to form peaks. So I will stop it and let you see kind of what that looks like in a second. There we go, so as you can see it's starting to hold peaks now. If I take these out, you can see they're starting to form. So the next step is to add 50 grams of caster sugar as we're beating it, and that's going to make it go really nice and glossy. Okay, so I'm just literally going to pop that in there and whisk it up again until it's fully combined, and then we're going to pop this to the side. So there we go, it's really nice and glossy, lovely and airy. So we're just going to pop this to the side now and do the rest of our cake. Okay, so next up we're going to need our bowl of egg yolks, and to this I'm going to add the remainder of our caster sugar. So again, I'm just going to chuck it in. I'm going to be using my hand mixer again. So we just want to mix these until they're kind of like moussey, a bit frothy, and then we can start adding the rest of our ingredients. Okay, so there we go. So as you can see, they've gone quite foamy now. So we're just going to pop that to the side. And next up, we're going to add our cocoa powder. So I've got our cocoa powder, and again, I'm just going to pop it straight in. And I'm also going to add a little drop of vanilla extract, just to give it that little bit of a pop. So we'll give that a quick whisk now. Okay, so once they're fully mixed together, I'm going to pop my whisk to the side now. We're not going to be using this again, so I'm just going to put this out of the way. And the next bit is going to take a little bit of patience. So I'm going to bring back our egg whites now. And all we're going to do is take what I call a sacrificial bit of egg white, and we're literally just going to pop it in there. You want a good dollop, and with this we're going to be quite rough and ready, and we're just going to literally mix it in. So once you're happy that's all combined, we're going to start adding our egg whites and folding them in gently. The reason that we add kind of a little bit to start with is just to kind of slacken that mix off. But now we're going to take about a third at a time and just start folding it in. So you just kind of want to cut a section out, but we need to be as gentle as possible now, and that's because there's no raising agents in this cake. So as I said earlier, we're going to be relying purely on our eggs. So all you want to do when you fold it in is go kind of all around the outside and across the middle. Once you've combined your first third, just carry on until you've got it all together, but just take your time. There is absolutely no rush with this. The more gentle you are now, the better rise you're going to have from your cake. So really take your time. Can be a bit of arm work, but it's really worth it in the end. So there we go, everything's combined now. You can see it's all kind of one uniform colour. There's no bits of white in there when we kind of check through the cake mix. So it's time to get it in the oven now. So we need to bring back our tray. And all I'm going to do is very, very gently feed the cake into the tray. So there we go, that's ready to go now. I'm going to pop it in the oven and check on it about halfway through cooking time, and then we'll take it out and leave it to cool. Okay, so our cake's out of the oven. I've let it cool down in the tin, and all I'm going to do now is pop it out and take this out of the way. Now I need to prepare another sheet of parchment, so I'll pop it to the back. And I'm just going to lay this out here. So all I'm going to do is sprinkle some icing sugar on here. And the reason that I'm doing that is to kind of help prevent the cake from sticking, because we're going to do like an initial roll now. So I'm just going to put some icing sugar on there. And then very carefully I'm going to take our cake and flip it. And now what I'm going to do is very slowly unpeel this top kind of parchment paper. You want to be as gentle as possible because the cake is so light it does rip very easily. So just really, really take your time. we go, so we've turned it out and it's come out really well. Now don't worry if there are little bits like here where it's kind of a little bit's come out, because when you roll it and you cover it, you're never going to see any of it. So don't panic if it doesn't look 100% perfect. Okay, so all I'm going to do now is getting a butter knife. About 2 inches into the cake, I'm going to make a very small line. And the reason that we do this is to help the cake get that initial roll. Now you want to be careful not to go all the way through, obviously you're not trying to cut it off, but you're just making it so that when you first turn that cake, you can get a really tight roll. So I'm just going to move this out of the way now. And I'm going to turn the cake face onto me and push it slightly down our paper. So you want a good bit of parchment paper at the top before you start your roll, because you're going to actually use the paper to begin rolling your cake. You want to get a really nice tight roll on it. And once you've rolled it, I'm going to actually pop it back in my tin. Just lay it down so that last curl is right at the bottom, and I'm going to leave it to fully cool in here now. So I'm going to pop this to the side and start making our buttercream to go in the middle and on the outside. Okay, so for our icing, I've just melted some chocolate. I've actually done this in the microwave in 30-second increments. It took about 2 minutes, just stirring it every time, and I'm going to leave this now to cool down. So I'll just pop that to the side for now, and we'll make a start on our butter. So I've got our butter in a bowl here, and again I'm going to be using a hand whisk just to beat it up, get it really nice and fluffy. Okay, so our butter's had a quick beat. As you can see, it's nice and fluffy now. So I'm going to start adding the icing sugar. I'm going to add it a few tablespoons at a time, just to make sure it gets really nice and combined and you don't get that massive kind of plume across your kitchen. So we'll do that now, just gradually adding it until it's all in there. Okay, so that's our icing sugar in there. The next step is to add our melted chocolate. So we're just going to bring that bowl back. Now you want to make sure it is melted, but that it has cooled down enough. If it hasn't, just pop it aside for 5 minutes and then come back to it. So once it's ready, all you want to do is just scrape it straight in. And then we're just going to give this a quick whisk. Now once you've mixed that in, if you want to, you have the option of putting a little bit of vanilla extract in, which I'm going to, just to give it a little bit of flavour. So we're going to give that a quick mix. And there we go, so our icing is all ready for our cake, so as soon as it's cooled down, we can get to decorating. But just for now, we'll pop it to the side, clean down our workspace and get ready. Okay, so our cake's cooled down, and all I'm going to do now is slowly unroll it. There we go, so it's time to get our buttercream now. So I've got my bowl of icing here, and all I'm going to do is take a small amount and pop it on. And then using a spatula knife, I'm just going to very gently push it all across the cake, almost like you're spreading a sandwich. Now you don't want to overfill your cake. Obviously when you're going to roll it and the outside's going to be covered as well, you don't need a lot of filling. So we're just going to put a nice even layer across the whole of our cake. You want to make sure you get it right in the end as well for where your roll is, so that when you make that roll you have got some filling in there. So we'll just pop that to the side a second and turn our cake to face us. So you want to keep it on the parchment paper again, but this time obviously we're not going to roll the paper into it. So you're just going to fold it up, get that initial tight roll, and you want to make sure that it is nice and tight, so make sure you tuck it in as you go. And then you can use your parchment paper to help you pull your cake. Obviously it's a very soft cake, so you want to avoid putting any actual pressure on the cake itself. And using the paper tends to help that. So there we go, we've got a lovely tight roll there. Now depending on the size of the tin that you use, if you have quite a long cake, you can cut sections off, put bits at the side. Because my tin was relatively thin, I'm going to leave it like this and just kind of have one chunky piece of cake. But it would be up to you if you wanted to cut it at an angle and put a little bit at the side or not. So I'm going to decorate it on my mat, and then I'm going to move it on to kind of the presentation tray. So I'm just going to clear down again. Now my cake has quite a bubbly end, so I'm just going to take a sharp knife and very gently trim that off. And as you can see, we actually have a really lovely roll inside our cake. So the next step is to be very, very gentle. And again, you want to bring your bowl back and place sections of icing along the top of your cake. Now you want to go slowly, just a little bit at a time. As I said earlier, this cake is exceptionally light. You don't want to overdo it. And all we're going to do is just gently, gently encourage that icing down our cake. Once you've got one side ready, you just want to turn your mat around and do exactly the same on the other side. So we'll just put some icing on. You want to avoid this motion because the cake is so soft. If you just suddenly lift your knife up, it can lift some of the cake as well. So you just want to move your knife in a nice backwards and forwards motion, very, very gently over the cake. And that way you can spread your icing evenly. And it kind of stops any damage. So once you've kind of got a nice coverage, you want to go back and forth, because obviously we want to make it look a little bit like a tree. So to give it that kind of rough tree-like texture, what we're going to do is spread back and forth. We're going to quickly cover the ends. And an easy way to do this is if you actually put the icing on your spatula for this bit, and then pop it on the top and then slowly work your way down. Just avoiding any sudden kind of lifting movements. But you want to get a really nice coverage on the end. And once you're happy, just smooth those edges down. Then we'll just turn it round and do the same to the other side. So we'll put some icing on our spatula and then just slowly work it down. And there we go, so that's the basis of our Yule log, and now it's time to make our tree pattern. Okay, so final step, you want to get your scribing tool. This has got two ends to it, kind of like a semi-blunt end and a pointy end. We're going to be using both. So all you want to think about is kind of the patterning you would see on a tree. So there'll be some kind of just rivets in it, so you can just make some little marks along your Yule log using the different ends, but you don't want it to be too kind of uniform. You want that different textures in there. And obviously if you go wrong, you literally can just get your knife and smooth it over and try again. So don't worry, it's all a bit of trial and error, but it's quite nice to put, you know, like the little circle patterns in there, as well as all of your, you know, kind of tree marks. So you just want to make your way down your whole cake, making the different patterns as you go. And when it comes to the end, I like to just do like a nice swirl. So starting in the middle, just going round. And making that pattern. So we'll just continue doing that on your cake until you're happy with it. And there we go, so I'm going to transfer this to like my presentation board now and put a little bit of icing sugar around it, and that's a really nice kind of simple, quite quick really once you get the hang of it, little showstopper for if you have people around or you just want to make a little something special near Christmas.